Chapter 2. 3 Important Things. That evening, 3 important things happened at the same time. Number 1, Grady Baxter picked his bags, left a note on the kitchen table, and drove away from the farm. Number 2, the old mudroom radio broadcast plainly, storm advisory, very heavy rains will be arriving Saturday from the southwest. Sustained gale force winds expected across the listening region. Number 3, Burdock gathered the animals in the barn and prepared to break the ominous news. "What happened to you?" asked Figgy the pig. "Did you see a ghost?" Figgy's snout poked through the slats of her pen and her intelligent eyes appraised Burdock. The barn cat was generally untended, with bits of hay, sticks, and burrs snarled in his bushy fur, not to mention that with only one eye, the other it held close. He always looked slightly askew, but his current state went beyond his unusual cockeyed appearance and questionable grooming. He looked generally spooked. "I'll get to that," answered Burdock. Is everybody here? I've got some news." Nanny, the cinnamon-colored goat, took initiative, as usual. She, too, could tell by his expression that something was wrong. "Oh, dear, Burdock, this doesn't look good. Let me help." Nanny was a barn mother and liked to think that everyone could benefit from her crisp, organized, and kindly manner. She was good at it and beloved for it, but part of her wished that she could be something grander than simply Nanny. What kind of name was Nanny? Every female goat was a nanny goat. Once she confided to Figgy the pig that she'd like to be called Victoria or Valoria, or best of all Gloria, something noble and brave. Figgy had laughed, lifted her snout in the air, and said, drawing out each syllable with precise regional enunciation, "And do call me Queen Elizabeth." And Nanny had laughed too. Now Nanny hopped up on her hind legs, propped her front hoofs on the middle rung of her pen, and peered over the top. As Burdock crunched down on the floor, Nanny gave him a concerned look, pausing for some moments to concentrate on him before she railed everyone. It was unusual for everyone to come together like this, and Nanny wanted to do it properly. "Okay, everyone, let's gather around," announced the goat. "Burdock has something to say. I'll take roll. Figgy Piggy?" "Nanny," snorted Figgy, "of course I'm here. I'm standing right." "Okay, all right," conceded Nanny. "Just go down the line. Fluff?" "Oh, that's me," said the sheep, who did truly look like a mound of white fluff with a face. "Mrs. Brown?" "Present," came the soft reply from Mrs. Brown. The old Jersey cow lowered her huge caramel eyes. A full barn meeting was unprecedented and made her nervous. "All right, hon," said Nanny. "Pull right here," came the molten voice of Pull, an enormous charcoal Shire draft horse. He shifted in his stall and swished a fly with his tail. "Tug, as I live and breathe, I'm here," echoed his equally massive brother. Tug's coat was dark brown, not as black, and his voice was a shade lighter. And although both brothers weighed about the same, nearly 2,000 pounds, Tug carried his tongue with a hint of buoyancy and a twist of humor that Pull lacked. "Tick?" asked Nanny. Here I am." Tick's, Nanny's kid buck, bounced up and down. Tick was white with his russet brown drapples and a black nose and his ears that canted forward as if they were always listening. He sprung up with such vigor he threatened to topple Nanny over. So eager was he to see into the barn's central aisle and to hear about what the excitement was. "With Burdock, that's 7. And I make 8, concluded Nanny. "We're all accounted for. Okay, Burdock sugar, whatever you have to tell us, the floor is yours." Slowly, Burdock stood up. Everyone waited for him to explain. But now Burdock felt daunted. Except for young Tick, Burdock remained the newest inhabitant of the barn, and he still wasn't sure what his place was here, or if he really had a rightful place. Who was he to speak up? What's more, it was just a staggering situation that he and the others were in. He couldn't quite think of where to begin, but he had to tell them, didn't he? "Go on, hon," Nanny coaxed gently. "What is it?" "The thing is," Burdock started, "Dewey's planning. Grady was. What I'm trying to say is, I overheard something." His voice lowered into a whisper. I heard a terrible thing. Except for the old cow, Mrs. Brown, who took a step back. All the animals bent in slightly closer. Burdock glanced around at their intent faces. "Spill, Burdock," said Figgy the pig. "It seems," continued the cat, "that Dewey wants that Dewey is, well, that Dewey intends to burn down our barn." "There," he said it. Burdock looked down at the worn boards of the barn floor, burnished dark with age. Although the cat wasn't much for aesthetics, right now the board looked beautiful. All those whirls of pine grain, like rivets of curling waves. Burdock looked up. Everyone was staring at him. "What?" cried Figgy. "Wait, start over." Figgy liked to get to the crux of things. She was a sharp thinker, a logical thinker, and this was illogical. Why would the farmer burn down his barn? "Now from the beginning," she said. So Burdock explained how he had snuck inside and gone to sleep under the stove. He told how Dewey and Grady had come into the house shouting. He repeated the brothers' argument as exactly as he could remember it. And he told how Dewey stormed out with Grady standing there yelling terrible things. "You can't burn down the barn," after him. Of course, Burdock. Grady didn't know I was there. After Dewey left, I peeked out and Grady looked awful. Made me realize Grady knew his brother meant it. Stunned, Nanny, the goat, opened her mouth to speak. It felt important to be reassuring, but she had no idea what to say. "There's something more," Burdock said now. "Oh boy," said Fluff, the sheep, breathlessly. "This is exciting." Figgy rolled her eyes. "I stayed under the stove for a while," continued Burdock. "I wanted to make sure I could get out without being seen. And just when it seemed all quiet, I heard a car drive up, and then a knock on the door. I thought Dewey was outside, but he must have been in the den, because he came to the front, opened the door. From where I was, all I could see was Dewey's boots and another man's black shoes. The man with the shoes started to speak, but Dewey yelled, 'Go away! Leave us alone already! Don't you have anything better to do?' I didn't know where Grady was, but Dewey and this man argued a while. It seemed to be about money, but I really didn't understand. Dewey talking really loud, the other man just calm, like nothing could rile him up, until finally the man left, but he said he'd be back." "Then what happened?" asked Figgy. "That's what I'm getting to," said Burdock, easing himself back against the wall for support. "I heard Dewey say something to himself. He said it's the only way out. The barn has to go." "Mercy," whispered the old Mrs. Brown, picking up her dusty hoofs and withdrawing further into the stall. "It'll be the end of us." "Now, Mrs. Brown," said the big Pole in his steady, solid way, "keep your hair on. Let's think this through." Burdock could never get over just how big Pole was, yet still the horse seemed to have a kind of gentleness about him. "Could be Dewey's mouth and no trousers," suggested Tug. "All vein and no taters." "It makes no sense," said Nanny. "Does it, Figgy Piggy?" Said Figgy. She seemed to be staring at nothing, considering. "Dewey wouldn't," whispered Tick, who had followed every bit of the conversation with fascination and fear. "He wouldn't burn down the barn with us in it, would he, Mamma?" "Of course not," said Nanny quickly, not looking at Tick. "You know," said Tug, "Dewey may as sharp as marbles, but even so, why on earth would he burn down our barn?" "He must have some reason for it," said Pole, considering. Figgy looked across the aisle at Pole. All the unfocused gaze of her eyes narrowed now to a fine point. She looked determined. "I don't care what Dewey's harebrained reason is," she said. "The most important thing is to keep us in mind. We can only assume we are running out of time." "Yes, we need to grab this nettle," said Tug. "Which means what?" asked Nanny. "It means we need to take action. We need a plan," translated Pole. "Oh, then yes, precisely," said Nanny, mustering more confidence than she felt. "We need a plan." And so it was agreed upon among the barn animals that each would do some hard thinking, and they would all resemble the next evening, same time, same place, with ideas. Later that night, as the wind tore leaves off the maples in the valleys and the animals hunched into their pens, listening, a creamy white form sailed down from the barn's rafters, blinked a perfect right, and glided soundlessly out the side of the window into the blackened sky.